My beloved child. Stop scrolling for just a moment. There are moments that quietly pass through an ordinary day, and then there are moments that carry the weight of eternity without announcing themselves. What you are about to hear was meant to find you at precisely this time. You may believe you chose this message, but from a higher place it has always been moving toward you. Before your thoughts rush ahead or your doubts begin to whisper, simply remain here for a little while. There is something unfolding that your heart has been sensing long before your mind could understand it. Today, something shifted. It did not happen with thunder or with voices echoing from the heavens. It happened in silence, hidden beneath ordinary conversations, unnoticed by almost everyone who walked past it. Yet heaven saw it. The angels witnessed it. The unseen world paused to observe a single moment that may appear insignificant to others but carries extraordinary meaning for the journey that has been unfolding around your life. There is someone connected to your story, someone whose heart has carried words they never imagined they would have to speak. Those words have remained trapped behind hesitation, uncertainty, and questions they could never fully answer. Again and again they rehearsed conversations that never happened. Again and again they convinced themselves to remain silent, believing that silence would protect them from disappointment. Yet every time they tried to walk away from those hidden emotions, something invisible kept drawing them back toward the truth. Listen carefully. This is not a story about coincidence. This is a fictional message created to inspire hope and reflection, yet within every story there can be reminders that encourage courage, forgiveness, and honest communication. Allow your imagination to enter this moment as though heaven itself were painting a picture across your heart. Today, something unexpected interrupted the ordinary rhythm of another person's life. It was not what they planned. It was not what they expected. And it became impossible for them to ignore what had been quietly growing within them. Perhaps they were walking through a familiar place. Perhaps they heard a sentence that reminded them of someone they could never truly forget. Perhaps they noticed an ordinary object that unexpectedly carried extraordinary meaning. Sometimes the smallest details awaken the deepest memories. A familiar song. A passing smile. A quiet afternoon breeze. A simple photograph tucked away where no one else would think to look. When that moment arrived today, something inside them stopped running. For the first time in a very long while, they became completely honest with themselves. That honesty frightened them. Not because truth is dangerous, but because truth asks us to stop pretending. For so long they believed they had enough time. Tomorrow would be another opportunity. Next week would feel easier. Another season would provide better words. Another sunrise would somehow make difficult conversations effortless. Yet today gently revealed something different. Life does not always wait for perfect timing. Sometimes the heart realizes that delaying kindness only creates deeper distance. Sometimes unspoken appreciation slowly becomes regret. Sometimes love, friendship, forgiveness, or understanding waits quietly behind a single sentence that nobody has been brave enough to speak. Can you feel why this moment matters? Even if you cannot explain it, your spirit recognizes when a turning point is approaching. There have been nights when you wondered whether anyone truly understood the silent chapters of your journey. You smiled while carrying questions. You continued moving forward while wondering if your efforts were visible to anyone beyond yourself. There were moments when you questioned whether unseen prayers had simply disappeared into empty skies. Yet heaven never confused your silence with absence. Every tear you never explained. Every hope you quietly protected. Every disappointment you carried without asking others to rescue you. None of it disappeared. The author of every sunrise noticed each chapter. And while you believed nothing was changing, invisible threads were being woven together with remarkable patience. Meanwhile, another heart was traveling through a different path. They laughed in moments when they felt empty. They appeared confident while quietly questioning themselves. They searched for distractions because stillness forced them to face emotions they were not ready to understand. Many people assumed they had everything figured out. Few realized how often they replayed forgotten conversations inside their mind. Fewer still understood that one particular memory continued returning, refusing to fade. Today that memory became impossible to ignore. Something happened that gently removed every excuse. No dramatic miracle. No overwhelming spectacle. Just one ordinary event carrying extraordinary significance. Sometimes heaven whispers instead of shouting. Sometimes answers arrive disguised as everyday moments. Sometimes transformation begins so quietly that only the heart notices it before the eyes ever do. Pause here again. Not because you are meant to fear what comes next. Because anticipation prepares the soul to receive what hurried thinking often overlooks. There is a reason your attention has remained here. There is a reason these words continue drawing you deeper instead of allowing you to move on. The story is only beginning. The message they carry has been growing heavier. I need to tell you something important. Those words have echoed through their thoughts more times than anyone could count. Yet every attempt ended before it truly began. What if they misunderstand? What if it's too late? What if everything changes? These questions stood like invisible walls around their heart. But something about today quietly weakened those walls. Not completely. Not yet. Just enough for hope to find a small opening. Hope rarely enters through wide-open doors. It often arrives through tiny cracks left by honest moments. As daylight unfolded, they encountered something that reminded them how fragile opportunities can be. Perhaps someone shared a story about missed chances. Perhaps they witnessed reconciliation between people who had nearly given up. Perhaps they saw how quickly ordinary plans can change without warning. Whatever the moment looked like on the outside, something deeper awakened within them. Their heart whispered a sentence they could no longer silence. You cannot keep pretending these words don't matter. Those 7 simple words echoed louder than every excuse. They looked toward the future. For the first time, they imagined what life might feel like if those important words remained forever unspoken. That thought unsettled them more than they expected. Because deep inside, they realized silence has its own consequences. Silence can preserve comfort for a day while quietly stealing peace for years. Truth may require courage for a moment, but hidden truth often becomes lifelong weight. Today became the day they finally admitted this to themselves. Yet there is another layer to this story. One almost nobody could see. While they wrestled with uncertainty, heaven continued arranging moments neither of you could fully understand. Doors closed that were never meant to remain open. Delays protected conversations that required greater wisdom. Unexpected detours redirected paths that would have led toward confusion instead of clarity. Many times you believed disappointment was simply disappointment. But not every closed door is rejection. Sometimes it is preparation. Sometimes unanswered questions protect future understanding. Sometimes waiting creates space for hearts to mature before important conversations begin. You have asked why certain answers seem delayed. You have wondered why certain seasons stretched longer than expected. This fictional story reminds us that growth often happens where nobody is watching. Roots deepen underground before branches ever reach toward sunlight. Character quietly forms inside ordinary days. Faith strengthens while nothing appears to change. And then, one day, everything begins revealing why the waiting mattered. Today carried one of those hidden beginnings. No headlines announced it. No crowd celebrated it. Yet heaven smiled. Because another heart finally became willing to stop hiding from its own truth. Still, willingness alone does not complete the journey. Courage must follow willingness. Action must eventually follow realization. Words must one day follow silence. And that is where this story begins growing even more mysterious. As evening slowly approached, they found themselves unable to focus on ordinary routines. Their mind kept returning to one thought. I have to tell them. Not because someone forced them. Not because guilt controlled them. Because sincerity finally outweighed fear. Imagine carrying an unopened letter inside your heart for far too long. Imagine reading it silently every day while convincing yourself no one should ever see it. Imagine believing you were protecting everyone by remaining quiet. Then suddenly realizing that honesty, spoken with kindness, may actually become the beginning of healing instead of conflict. That realization changes people. It changes how they see tomorrow. It changes how they remember yesterday. It changes how they understand themselves. The invisible distance between intention and action suddenly becomes much smaller. Yet another question remained. Would they find the courage before doubt returned? Would tomorrow strengthen today's realization? Or would fear quietly rebuild every wall that had begun falling apart? This question remained unanswered as the sun slowly moved across the sky. Even the angels seemed to watch with gentle expectation. Not because heaven forces hearts. Love never forces. Love patiently invites. Love waits. Love encourages. Love opens doors without dragging anyone through them. And somewhere within today's unexpected events, another invitation quietly appeared. It was simple. Almost invisible. Yet deeply significant. The opportunity to choose honesty over hesitation. The opportunity to choose hope over assumptions. The opportunity to believe that meaningful conversations can still begin, even after seasons of silence. Can you sense how close this moment has become? Perhaps not close in distance, but close in purpose. There is a difference. Many people stand physically near one another while remaining emotionally worlds apart. Others may be separated by miles yet steadily moving toward the same moment without realizing it. Purpose has a remarkable way of bringing unfinished stories back into view. Not to repeat old pain, but to write new chapters with greater wisdom. This is why your journey has not been meaningless. Every lesson, every delay, every unexpected turn, every unanswered question. They have quietly prepared the soil for conversations that could never have grown during earlier seasons. Even now, there remains one final piece you have not yet seen. One unexpected detail from today that changed everything inside the other person's heart. It was so personal, so quietly powerful, that after it happened, they whispered words they had never spoken aloud before. Those words were not dramatic. They were not rehearsed. Yet they carried the weight of complete honesty. And once those words escaped their lips, they realized there was no returning to the person they had been that morning. Something had changed forever. What they saw, what they understood, and the name that unexpectedly entered their thoughts in that unforgettable moment will change the direction of this story in a way neither of you could have imagined. But that revelation belongs to the next chapter.